There's a specific day in some people's lives that nobody ever talks about. It's not the day they get a raise. It's not the day they pay off a loan. It's not the day they hit some big round number in a savings account. It's a quieter day than that, a more invisible one. It's the day their money, the money they saved and invested and were patient with, starts earning more in a year than they do at their job. Think about that for a second. The same person, same house, same life, but now wealth is flowing toward them from something other than their own labor. Most people never experience that day. And honestly, it's not because they weren't smart enough or disciplined enough. It's because nobody ever explained to them what they were actually building toward. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to walk through exactly what that day looks like, why it matters more than almost anything else in your financial life, and, most importantly, how ordinary people actually get there. Stay with me, because by the end of this, something is going to click that might genuinely change how you think about money forever. Here's where most of us start. Someone, a parent, a teacher, society in general, gives us the same basic lesson. Go to school, get a good job, work hard, earn a paycheck. And look, that's not bad advice. There's real dignity in work. Earning a living through your own effort is something to be proud of. But here's what that lesson left out. When you trade your time for money, you are operating under a very specific ceiling. There are only 24 hours in a day. You can't work more than that. You can get better at your job, you can earn more per hour, you can hustle on the side, but at the end of the day, your income is still leashed to your presence. The moment you stop showing up, the money stops coming in. That's not a criticism, that's just the mechanics of the system. And for a while it works fine. But it becomes a problem the second you think about things like, what if I get sick? What if I want to retire someday? What if I want to take a month off and travel? What if I just want the freedom to choose how I spend my days? The moment those questions show up, time for money becomes a cage. And here's something worth sitting with. Most people spend their whole lives getting better at earning within that cage, promotions, side gigs, second jobs. But they never step back and ask a bigger question. What if money itself could earn money? This is where the conversation shifts, because here's a truth that wealthy people, genuinely, quietly wealthy people, not just high-income earners, understand at a deep level. Money isn't just a reward for work. Money, when managed correctly, can become a worker itself. Think about what that actually means. If you own a business and it runs well without you physically being there, that business is generating income whether you're at your desk or on a beach. If you invest in assets that pay dividends, portions of a company's profits, those dividends show up whether you had a good week or a terrible one. If you have money in investments that grow over time, that growth doesn't check your attendance record. If you've built a skill set that creates royalties, books, music, courses, templates, software, income can arrive from something you created once, years ago. None of this is magic, none of it is instant, none of it replaces the need for real work, especially in the early stages. But over time, and this is the key thing, the income from what you own can begin to close the gap with the income from what you do. And eventually, for some people who are patient and consistent and disciplined, it crosses over. That crossover is what we're calling the day. The day your money earns more than you do. And I want to be clear, reaching that day doesn't mean you stop working. Many people who reach that day keep working because they love what they do. But the difference is that now working is a choice. That's the shift that changes everything. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because you might be thinking, okay, I get the idea, but how do people actually get there? Is it just income? Is it just investing? The honest answer is, it starts way before any of that. It starts in how you think. There's a concept that psychologists call delayed gratification, the ability to pass on something good today in exchange for something better later. And study after study suggests that this one trait is one of the most powerful predictors of long-term financial success. Not IQ, not family wealth, not luck. The willingness to wait. That sounds simple, but it runs directly against almost everything modern life is designed to make you do. Every advertisement you see is trying to get you to spend right now. Every buy now, pay later button is engineered to lower the psychological barrier between you and your money. The people who build lasting wealth aren't necessarily people who earn dramatically more than everyone else. Often, they're people who decided, quietly, without announcement, that they'd rather own things than consume things. They think about time differently. While most people see a $5 coffee as $5, someone building long-term wealth might occasionally think about what that $5 could become in 20 years if it were invested instead. Not obsessively, not joylessly, but consciously. They think about ownership. They're not just interested in earning more, they're interested in owning more. Stocks, property, businesses, skills. They ask, what can I own that works for me? And they think about identity. They see themselves as builders, not just earners. That identity shift matters more than most people realize, because your habits follow your self-image. The goal isn't to earn more. The goal is to build something that earns. Let's talk about the most important concept in personal finance that almost nobody fully appreciates until they experience it firsthand: compounding. Here's the simplest way to understand it. Imagine you plant a tree. In the first year, it barely grows. In the second year, it's still small. People walk past it and don't give it a second glance. But here's what's happening underground. The roots are spreading. The system is building. By year 10, the tree's providing shade. By year 20, it's producing fruit. By year 30, the fruit from that tree is growing more trees. That's compounding. Not just your money growing, but your growth growing. When your investments generate returns and you reinvest those returns, now the new, larger total starts generating returns. Over time, the numbers that seemed boring at first become genuinely difficult to believe. The math doesn't lie, but the human brain really struggles to feel it intuitively. We think in straight lines. Compounding works in curves. Slow at first, then accelerating, then eventually breathtaking. The one thing that makes or breaks compounding: time. Not timing the market, not picking the right stock, not having perfect information, just how early did you start, and did you keep going? That's why the person who starts investing modest amounts in their 20s and stays consistent can, over decades, build more wealth than someone who earns twice as much but starts much later. Compounding doesn't reward the impatient, it rewards the present. I want to be honest here. These kinds of charts are always simplified, and real markets don't move in smooth lines. There are down years, there are scary years. The point isn't the exact numbers. The point is the shape of it. Starting matters. Staying matters. Time is the engine. So, if compounding is this powerful and the principles are this teachable, why do so few people actually reach that turning point? This is the part of the conversation that takes a little honesty. The first reason is lifestyle inflation. This one is sneaky. As people earn more, they tend to spend more at almost exactly the same rate. A raise becomes a nicer car. A promotion becomes a bigger apartment. The income grows, but so does everything else, and the gap between earning and keeping stays roughly the same. The second is consumer debt. Not all debt is destructive, but the kind that finances things that don't grow in value at high interest rates is genuinely one of the most powerful forces working against you. It's compounding in reverse, someone else's wealth growing on your balance. Third is emotional spending. And look, I'm not here to judge anyone for this. Spending can feel like relief, like reward, like control even, ironically. But money spent to manage emotions rather than because it genuinely adds value to your life is quietly one of the biggest drains on long-term wealth. Fourth, and this one matters, is simply not knowing. A lot of people never really learn how investing works, what assets are, how markets function, or why starting early is so disproportionately powerful. Financial education, for most of us, was almost completely absent growing up. And finally, fear and procrastination. People tell themselves they'll start when they know more, when they earn more, when life settles down. But that day rarely comes on its own. None of this is a character flaw. It's human. It's completely understandable. But understanding it is the first step to doing something different. So, let's get practical. Because inspiration without direction is just entertainment. Here's a framework. Not a guarantee, not a magic formula, just a set of principles that, applied consistently over time, tend to produce real results. First, earn. This sounds obvious, but it matters. Work hard at what you do. Develop skills that make you more valuable. Explore ways to increase your income over time, not to spend more, but to have more to deploy. Second, spend with intention, not with deprivation. There's a difference between being cheap and being deliberate. Ask yourself honestly, is this adding real value to my life, or is it just adding noise? Third, build a cushion first. Before you invest, build an emergency fund, enough to cover your expenses for several months if something goes wrong. This isn't just practical, it's psychological. It keeps you from being forced to sell investments at the wrong time. Fourth, deal with destructive debt. High-interest consumer debt is the fire you put out before you start building. The math doesn't work any other way. Fifth, invest consistently. Not all at once when you feel confident. Consistently, month by month, regardless of headlines. Build that habit like you'd build any other habit. Routine, automatic, non-negotiable. Sixth, keep learning. Not obsessively, not so much that you freeze up from information overload, but understand what you're doing and why. Education reduces fear, and fear is one of the biggest reasons people stop. Seventh, think in decades. The most important financial decisions you make aren't about this year or next year. They're about where you want to be in 20, 30 years. Let that time horizon change how you react to setbacks. Eighth, reinvest. When your investments generate returns, put them back to work. Don't lifestyle inflate your portfolio. And finally, protect your progress. Review where you are periodically. Adjust as life changes, but don't let noise, headlines, or other people's behavior make you undo what years of discipline have built. Wealth isn't built by people who make perfect decisions. It's built by people who make enough good ones consistently. Just a quick note. This video is educational in nature, and nothing here is personalized financial advice. Everyone's situation is different, and speaking with a qualified financial professional for your specific circumstances is always worth considering. I want to tell you about someone. Her name is Maya. Completely fictional, but her story is built from real patterns. Maya grew up in a working-class home. Money was always tight. She watched her parents work incredibly hard and still, somehow, always be stressed about finances. She promised herself she'd figure out how to do things differently. She graduated, found a decent job, and for the first 2 years, she spent almost everything she made. Not irresponsibly, she just didn't know there was another way. Then one day, she read something that stopped her cold. A simple explanation of how investing works. How money, given time, could grow into something she'd never be able to earn purely through her own labor. She didn't fully understand it yet, but something clicked. She started small, really small, an amount that felt almost embarrassing to call investing. She put it away automatically so she wouldn't see it and miss it. She kept her lifestyle modest, not miserable, just intentional. She cooked at home more. She bought less stuff she didn't need. She stayed in the smaller apartment a little longer than her friends thought she should. There were hard years. Years where the market fell and she had to fight the urge to pull everything out. Years where life got expensive and she had to temporarily reduce what she was putting away. Years where she watched people around her buy things she couldn't justify and felt the pull. But she kept going, quietly, consistently. Then came a year, she was in her early 40s, when she ran the numbers, and she realized that the income being generated by her investments had crossed a line she hadn't expected to cross for years. It had quietly become larger than her salary. She didn't quit her job that day. She actually loved her work. But for the first time in her life, she went in the next morning knowing that she was there because she wanted to be. That's the shift. That's what we're really talking about. Here's the thing about that day. The day your money earns more than you do. It doesn't arrive because of one smart decision. It doesn't arrive because of one good year, or one great investment, or one moment of brilliant insight. It arrives because of thousands of ordinary decisions made quietly, over years, in moments that felt insignificant at the time. The Friday night you chose to invest instead of impulse spend. The year you kept your lifestyle the same even though your income went up. The market crash you sat through instead of reacting to. The month you were tired and stressed and still showed up for your financial habits. None of those moments felt like building wealth. They felt like nothing, like Tuesday. But stacked together, over time, they become something remarkable. That's the secret nobody sells you, because it doesn't make a very exciting headline. The path to financial freedom isn't dramatic, it's consistent. The life you want financially is built in the moments you don't feel like being disciplined. I want to leave you with something to hold on to. Most people go through their entire working lives asking one question: how do I earn more? And that's a good question. It matters. But there's a better question underneath it. What am I building towards? Because the goal of earning isn't just to consume, it's eventually to create something that lasts, something that generates, something that grows even while you sleep. The day your money earns more than you do isn't the day everything becomes easy. It's the day you realize that every sacrifice you made mattered. Every time you chose long-term over short-term, it was adding to something real. That day belongs to lucky people. It belongs to patient ones. And patience is something anyone can choose. The day your money earns more than you do isn't the day you become lucky. It's the day every quiet, wise decision you made finally starts paying you back. If this video helped you think about money differently, I'd genuinely love for you to subscribe to Alexander Finance. Everything we put out here is designed to be the kind of financial education that's actually worth your time. Honest, practical, and built for the long game. If this resonated, hit like. It genuinely helps this content reach people who need it. And drop a comment below. Tell me, what's one financial habit you want to build after watching this? I read every one. And if you want to keep going, the next video is right there. We go deeper into building long-term wealth in a way that actually fits real life, not a textbook. I'll see you there.